Defining concepts is not an easy thing. There are concepts which are easy to define. Usually they are concepts which are within the frame of a particular subject, of a curricular subject. Whereas if you think of cross-curricular subjects, you're going for much more difficult territory. Just to give you an example, it may be pretty simple, looking at the world at the subject of music. It may be pretty simple to explain or to deal with the structure of a sonata or symphony. But it may be much more, and in fact it is much more demanding, to explore the cultural, social, historical background and environment in which Beethoven's Sixth Symphony was composed. So that would be an example of cross-curricular concepts, whereas the first one would be well within the limits of music.
Okay, first you have the technical words, because you are talking about electricity, you're talking about chemistry, you're talking about electrons, so that's not common language. They have not learned that language in their English classes, so you need to give them that special words, and that's what they need to learn. And sometimes they are teenagers that don't like learning things by heart, So yeah, that could be the hard part, because you need to be precise when you use technical language, and sometimes, it's a bit hard for them.
An aim of my subject is to teach to my students how to read complicated equation, for example. Then it's necessary to know a very specific vocabulary.
I would say it's particularly vocabulary. I mean, I think we do insist a lot on widening the vocabulary range, because geography is a science, and sometimes we need to be very precise. I mean, we're talking about thermal amplitude. That's the word that you are supposed to be using. I mean, you can talk about stuff or that thing or that sort of thing. I mean, you need to be very precise. So sometimes, some students do find it quite difficult to make the difference between, for example, words like sources and resources. Sometimes they keep mixing them, and I think it's very important to set the difference and the right definition at the very beginning, so that they feel more more comfortable about using that kind of lingo.
So if I'm defining a concept in science, I might take in rock samples and define the concept of an igneous rock by saying what it is.
I think supporting students through the scaffolding is very important. Actually, we always use that because we give primary sources, secondary sources, excerpts from books, for example, visual support materials, pictures, portraits, whatsoever. So I use scaffolding the most.
It's not so easy to make learners understand the concept of what you're heading for. One basic rule, I think, is use as simple a language as possible. In other words, kiss your learners, keep it short and simple. So the simpler your instructions, the simpler your definitions are, the more likely you succeed.